My son told me not to come to his birthday party. Not because the house was small, not because he was busy, not because of money. He said it would be awkward. That was the word he used. Awkward. I remember staring at my phone, reading the message again and again, waiting for it to sound less cruel the more times I read it. It didn't. I typed out a reply, deleted it, typed another, deleted that too. In the end, I just wrote, "Okay. Have a nice birthday." That sentence hurt more than any argument ever could. I raised my son by myself. His father left when he was still a child, and from that moment on, it was just the two of us. I worked long hours, skipped meals, and learned how to be strong even when I felt like I was falling apart. I remember sitting at the kitchen table late at night, counting bills, wondering how I would make everything stretch until the end of the month. I never complained to him. I never wanted him to feel the weight I was carrying. I told myself that love and sacrifice would be enough, that one day he would understand what I gave up for him. When he told me not to come, I tried to convince myself it didn't mean anything. I told myself adults get busy, that families change, that children grow up and drift away. I replayed every recent conversation in my head, trying to find the moment where I went wrong. Did I say something? Did I ask for too much? Or did I simply exist in a way that was no longer convenient? The silence that followed his message felt heavier than any harsh words could have. On the night of his birthday, I didn't plan on doing anything special. I made myself some tea, turned on the television, and tried to treat it like a normal evening. But every few minutes, I checked my phone, half expecting a message saying he'd changed his mind. It never came. At some point, without even realizing it, I found myself in my car. I didn't tell myself where I was going. My hands just moved, following a familiar route I had taken so many times before. I parked down the street from his house. There were balloons outside. Music drifting through open windows. Laughter spilling into the night air. The house looked full of warmth and life in a way mine hadn't felt in years. I sat there quietly, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself I would leave in a minute. Then I saw my sister's car pull up. My sister, who had told me she was too busy to come that night. That was the moment something inside me broke. This wasn't about awkwardness. This wasn't about space. This was about me not belonging. I didn't go inside. I didn't knock. I didn't even cry. I just drove home, feeling smaller with every mile. The next morning, my son called me. He sounded cheerful, relaxed, like nothing unusual had happened. He told me the party was great. Then he said something that I still hear in my head when the house is quiet. He said, "Everyone was asking why you didn't come." I asked him what he told them. There was a short pause, followed by a laugh that didn't sound kind. He said, "I just told them you like playing the victim." Victim. That's what I became in his story. Not the woman who raised him.
I know
Not
you
the
might
one
not
who
want to
stayed
hear
when
this,
it
but
was
I have to
hard.
be honest about how much
Just
pain
someone
I'm
who
in.
made things
I just
uncomfortable.
can't keep pretending everything
I felt
is
embarrassed
fine.
in a way I had never felt before, knowing that people I loved were hearing a version of me that wasn't true, and that it came from my own child. I wanted to defend myself, to remind him of everything I had done, but I realized something painful in that moment. He had already decided who I was. After that call, I started noticing things I had ignored for years. The unanswered messages. The plans that were always postponed. The way he only reached out when he needed something. I saw how often I was the one apologizing, even when I didn't know what I had done wrong. I realized how much effort I had spent trying to stay close to someone who was slowly pushing me out. I used to believe family betrayal would be loud and obvious. I imagined shouting, slammed doors, dramatic confrontations. But real betrayal is quiet. It happens in small decisions, in exclusions that are easy to explain away. It's being talked about when you're not in the room. It's becoming a problem instead of a person. My son didn't cut me off all at once. He stepped back little by little, and I stayed where I was, hoping he would come back on his own. Now my house is quieter than it's ever been. Some days that quiet feels peaceful. Other days it feels unbearable. I still love my son, and I probably always will. But I've learned that love doesn't mean accepting disrespect, and sacrifice doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that the people you give everything to may never see you the way you hoped they would. The most painful part isn't missing the birthday party. It's realizing that I wasn't missed at all. He didn't stop inviting me that night. He stopped choosing me long before that day. I was just the last one to understand it. For a long time, I blamed myself. I wondered if I had been too strict or not strict enough. If I had talked too much or not spoken up when I should have. I replayed moments from his childhood, searching for proof that I had failed him in some way. But the truth is, no parent is perfect. And mistakes don't erase years of love, effort, and sacrifice. At some point, responsibility shifts. Children grow up. They make choices. And those choices reflect who they are, not just how they were raised. What hurt most was realizing that he didn't just push me away, he rewrote our history to make it easier to do so. It was simpler to paint me as difficult, emotional, or dramatic than to admit that he had outgrown the bond we once had. That kind of rewriting is quiet cruelty. It doesn't leave visible scars, but it changes the way you see yourself when you're alone with your thoughts. I've learned that family doesn't always mean safety. Sometimes it's the place where you feel the most exposed. You expect understanding because you shared blood, memories, and years together. When that understanding disappears, the loss feels deeper than any friendship or romantic breakup ever could. You don't just lose a person, you lose a version of yourself that existed only with them. Now, I focus on something I neglected for too long, my own peace. I stopped waiting for apologies that may never come. I stopped explaining myself to people who had already made up their minds. And slowly, I began to understand that being alone is not the same as being unwanted. Sometimes it's simply the result of choosing not to beg for a place in someone else's life.